friends. On today's episode, I'm going to be discussing your diet and its effect on your physiology. And I'll start with a little bit of detail about my past. About 15 years ago, I got really, really, really sick. I woke up one morning and I just felt off. Something didn't feel right. I went on throughout the day. I coached some clients. I'm pretty sure I was still coaching at the time. Yeah. I coached some clients, and that afternoon I was out with my mother, and she and I were walking through a home store, and I remember standing there and thinking something is really wrong with my body. I didn't really have a specific symptom at that point. I don't know if it was just intuition, but I'm standing there. She's talking, her mouth is moving. I can't focus on anything that she's saying because I'm like, you know what? I am really in trouble here. And I remember just the fear around that. Just knowing something was wrong, not knowing what it was, not knowing how bad it was. um, it just kind of gripped me. And she and I went on, she picked out some things, and I was trying to laugh and ha 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 and trying to be there with her. But in my mind, I thought something's really off here. So she and I go through the line, check out, I take her home, I go home. And that next morning, um, I began to spiral downward. Just fatigue, spasming muscles. My digestion was off to where if I ate anything, I would just have belches just roaring up out of my body. I remember at one point my husband was like, "You got to go on the other side of the room." Like, it was so gross and it was so loud. I mean, it literally just sounded like something from the beyond. Like, I could just open up my mouth to say something and a big belch would just roll out. Um, Over the next 2 weeks, I got worse. At one point, I couldn't even stand up straight. I was walking bent over, um, and I could not sit down. It was just terrible. And so I just laid in the bed thinking, what the hell just happened to me? So I did that for about a week, and I'm thinking, you know what? I'm still pretty young. I don't have any kind of history of disease, no disease in my family. I'm going to bounce back. I just need to rest. I just need to sleep my way through this. I did that for about a week. Nothing changed. Second week, I tried some meditation tapes. Although looking back on it, the meditation tape was the only thing that seemed to quell some of the symptoms. At the time, I didn't piece it together. But it was the deep breathing and the relaxation that caused the symptoms to subside. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the podcast. But back to my story. So I am sicker than a dog, and I decide you're going to have to seek out medical care. So I started calling doctors. I didn't even know where to start. Um, I went to a primary care physician, um, beautiful doctor. I loved her. She's no longer practicing. Um, she did a full panel workup on me, and I'm thinking at this point I'm going to get an answer to why I feel so awkward and bad, and couldn't even begin to put my finger on what it might be. It was such an odd, tricky set of symptoms. I remember hanging up my coat one day and my neck popped so loud that my husband heard it on the other side of the room. What do you call that? I didn't, it didn't point to anything that I knew, like diabetes or a heart trouble or anything like that. She did a full workup on me. She comes in that room, and I got a sigh of relief um, in my heart because I'm thinking she's about to tell me what's wrong with me. And she tells me, "You are perfectly healthy. Everything is checking out fine." She checked my hormones, she checked my mineral levels, all that stuff came back. And she's like, there's nothing wrong. So I thought, okay, that's a fluke. Maybe something is wrong with her testing. Maybe my lab work got mixed up with someone else's. I'm going to try again. So I went to another doctor, and that doctor checked me out, and same thing. All my blood work's coming back. Levels are great. I think one doctor told me that my cholesterol was slightly elevated. Um, but other than that, they couldn't find anything wrong. So I found another doctor. Same thing. So this went on for probably around 4 weeks, probably about a month, maybe even longer than that. I just kept trying to find different specialists to go to. And at this point, I'm blowing through money. I had a nice little savings that I had amassed, and those doctor's visits weren't cheap. Insurance was only covering a portion of it. Um, I ended up having some diagnostics done because I kept pressing the doctors, thinking something's really wrong. You guys just aren't finding it. So I had some exploratory surgery at once. It was minor. I think they called it a laparoscopy or something like that. Laparoscopy or laparoscopic surgery. Um, I had scans. I had barium swallows. I had the whole 9 yards, and all of those people came back to me and told me I was perfectly healthy. Now, mind you, I can barely stand up straight. So I knew something was wrong. They weren't finding it. Um, Towards the end, I found a couple of male doctors that just pretty much point blank told me it was all in my head, but it wasn't in my head because I could hear the sounds. My husband could hear the sounds. Something was off. And I was relieved at the end of that process to know that it probably was nothing major because it wasn't showing up on labs and scopes and sounds and sonographies and blood work. Um, but I still knew something was off, and my husband knew something was off. So um, I did schedule one last appointment with a doctor, and he was a surgeon. He was a digestive specialist, and he did things like, I guess probably dealt with things like cancers and stuff like that. I mean, he was a surgeon. He was a very well known surgeon. And I started thinking because I had heartburn so bad that I needed, I think it's called a oh God, fundoplication surgery or something like that. Forgive me, I'm off on the terms, but there was some kind of procedure that they did to keep the acid from coming up in your chest, and that was only one of my symptoms, and it was pretty bad to the point where I couldn't even lay down flat at night. The acid was so bad, it would just burn. It was starting to burn my gums, and so I was scheduled to go meet with that guy, and I'm talking to my husband, completely at my wits' end. He's frustrated. He's looking at me, concerned, of course, and I'm not finding answers. And so he says, "Well, why don't you go over to the university and see one of those doctors?" And up until that point, I had just been kind of seeing specialists here and there, but he kind of felt like because that was our university hospital that those doctors would be better at diagnosis. And I thought, well, I have nothing to lose at this point because I'm scheduled to meet with this surgeon and I really don't want to have surgery for something that they can't even name. It seems so bogus when I look back on it now. And so I followed my husband's suggestion and I met with this doctor at the UC Physicians. And again, that's our university hospital here. So they're considered like some of the best. And I just sat there and poured out my heart to that guy. I was completely exacerbated. I'm actually tearing up just thinking about it. I was so sick, y'all. It was the worst time of my life. Um, but I'm sitting there and I'm pouring out my heart to this guy. And I told him that I had the appointment with the doctor. And he said, you know, he's a surgeon, right? And I said, yeah, I'm aware. And he's like, well, he's more times than not, he's going to cut you open. Like, is that what you really want for this? And I'm like, I'm just at my wit's end. I don't know what's wrong with me. No one can tell me, da da da. So he was quiet after a few minutes, just kind of let me get it all out. Um, and he looked at me and he said, you know, I really think that all of your symptoms are real. So he's like, I don't agree with them when they're telling you that it's all in your mind and that you're imagining things. He said, your symptoms are real. And he said, but I don't think that surgery is going to be the answer for you. He said, if you could have the discipline and the commitment to change your lifestyle, the way you're eating, the way you're drinking, getting exercise, all of those things that come along with being healthy, pretty much, is what he said. I believe that you will come all the way out of this. It may not happen overnight, but I think that this really is a situation where you've done some things to kind of break down your physiology and it just needs to be restored. And I remember the sense of relief that overcame me in that doctor's office. And I looked at him and I said, can I hug you? And he was kind of taken aback. And he said, sure. I stood up, he stood up, and I just wrapped my arms around that man in just joy and relief because what he said resonated with me. And that was the thing. All those other doctors that were telling me this, that, and the other, da 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 da, none of that really resonated. I knew something was underneath all of it. And at that point, when he explained that to me, it clicked. And I knew that that was the beginning of my healing. So I leave his office that day and I come home and I'm sitting at my computer and I remember saying a prayer and I said, okay, God, this is between me and you because I don't know where to begin with this. I've always been conscious of my diet, but obviously that wasn't enough. Like my diet was never really horrible. I was always eating a whole grain and trying to get the number of fruits and vegetables. I ate a lot of restaurant food. I ate a lot of restaurant food, let's be clear. But I did try to make healthy choices in the restaurants as best as I could, but obviously it wasn't enough. So I remember going on the computer and typing in whatever the first thing I decided to type in. And just one thing after the next began to present themselves to me, that it wasn't just about eating healthy. It wasn't just about getting the greens. It was what was underneath all of that that was the key to my healing. So when we were a kid, we always grew up that we should follow the food pyramid and we should get the grains and we should get the vegetables and we should get the meat and the poultry and we should get the dairy. But no one ever really explained to us why. And so My journey led me to the discovery of why eating healthy is important. And so we're not really eating healthy just for the sake of eating the greens, the vegetables, the nuts. Underneath all of that is the underlying concept of vitamins and minerals. So we eat the greens and the fruits and the dairy and the whole grains, not for the foods themselves. We eat them for what they contain. The vitamins are in the whole grains. B vitamins, your thiamine, your vitamin B6, your vitamin B12. We eat the green vegetables for the folate, for the magnesium, for the calcium, for the potassium. We eat the dairy for the calcium and for the other nutrients that are contained in those foods. And no one had told me or anyone that I knew about that. That your body's physiological and metabolic processes are carried out only because of those nutrients. And I had totally missed that. So as I kept digging deeper and deeper into this story of health, I understood that the foundation of that hinges and rests upon the nutrients that we're receiving from the foods. And most people are completely unaware of that. So, for example, your heart beats and contracts. It is magnesium and calcium that are responsible for that process. If you get deficient in one of those, completely deficient, in other words, you're out of it, your heart cannot beat and you will die. And it made me think about people like Lynn Bias and, well, maybe not Lynn Bias. I think Lynn Bias had some other issues going on. But over the years, we've seen athletes kind of just collapse in a heap during a sporting event. And I really think it's because those minerals, magnesium specifically, just ran out and the heart could not do its function. The B vitamins, you get those from whole grains. Those are responsible for your nerve conductivity, synapses, all of those kinds of things, even your mood, which is connected to your nerves. My family comes from the South, and the first thing they're going to say when somebody is a little edgy or anxious, she got bad nerves. She's got bad nerves, girl. She just got bad nerves. Those B vitamins are responsible for not only nerve impulses, but nerves as it pertains to your mood. And we missed all of that. We missed the fact that the greens have potassium in them. And potassium is responsible for certain bodily functions. Vitamin D is a hormone. We get that from the sun. I know for me growing up, I don't know about you all, I always thought, well, I can still live on the junk if I eat the healthy foods. Then that's even better, and I may have a little bit more energy. But I never really understood until I got sick that if you run out of those nutrients, that your body can't do some of those processes. And when it can't do some of those processes, then yeah, you're going to get sick. You're going to get a little diabetes if your magnesium levels are low. You're going to get kidney stones if your magnesium levels are low. And no one ever explained that to me. In fact, very few people are talking about this in the mainstream. If you go online, all the information is there. But as far as being in the mainstream, this is not a conversation that's being had. Our focus has shifted from healthy food to depending upon the medical field for our health. And how bogus is that? How bogus is it that we would all surrender our well-being to people that don't know us and people that just want to cut and sew and all of that? And I am not against doctors. I think we live in amazing times, and we have the benefit of modern medicine, and it is doing some miraculous things. But I do think that there is a harm in being dependent upon that particular system, especially since it has at its root profit. I think there's an issue with depending upon that for your health, for sustaining your health, especially when we have the power to just discipline ourselves and control what we're eating and go to the refrigerator and heal most chronic disease. And that particular conversation has not gone mainstream yet. So your diet really does affect how you show up in the world. It affects your physiology. And we're not putting enough emphasis on that, right? You know, I grew up in a fast food generation. When I was probably 10, late 70s, fast food started becoming mainstream. We started with like a little Burger Chef, and then it went to Burger King. And then we had, I think Pizza Hut was one of the first franchises that kind of cropped up. We had a White Castle. When I was a kid, that stuff was still kind of like a luxury. People didn't really have the money to do a lot of that like we do now. It was cheaper then to shop at the grocery store. But fast forward, a lot of years later, we'll say, I'm not going to throw my age out on this podcast, but fast forward a number of years later, a very big number of years, fast food and restaurant food has become a way of life. And it is now, unfortunately, cheaper to eat at a fast food restaurant than it is to buy whole healthy food. How sick is that? And what does that mean, especially in underserved communities that barely have money to make rent? And now they have to go to the grocery store. They can afford tomatoes. They can afford cucumbers and all the things that make us healthy. And I just think that that is a travesty in our country, that a poor single mom can run through the drive-thru and feed her children burgers and fries and get a Coke for $1 in some places, sometimes maybe $3, but she could never feed her family for that same amount of money if she tried to go through the grocery store and prepare a meal. And that right there is an injustice that we really do need to do something about in this country. Healthy food should not be a luxury for the rich and for the people driving their Audis that pull up at the Whole Foods, you know, in their fancy yoga pants and all of that. Healthy food should be a right, and it should be available to every American in this country. It should be available to every citizen of the world. And this is how we've gotten here. Simply speaking, everywhere we look are images of illness and disease and dying from disease, simply because we have forgotten that your body needs minerals to function, and the way to get the minerals is from the food. I'm going to leave a little caveat here too, and this is an issue as well, that modern farming practices have kind of stripped the land essentially, and that they're saying that even though we're eating the vegetables, the land is stripped of the minerals and nutrients because they've been farming the same land for decades, in which it makes sense. And if they don't go back and fertilize that land, the nutrients are just enough for the tomato to grow, but it's not really enough to give to the human being upon consumption, if that makes sense. And so that's something that we need to do something about. But as for right now, it's kind of all we have. And so we need to be eating that tomato that may not have as many nutrients as it had when we were growing up, but it still got some, and we need to eat it. And in addition to that, you can always supplement. Eating organic, again, I try to eat organic where I can, but it's expensive, and everybody can't do that. And that's going back to the social injustice of food in this nation. It is heartbreaking. Um, Everybody can't eat organic, and I have been known to sit staring at an organic avocado and think, well, my God, do I have to get the organic one? Can I just get the conventional one? Because the price is oftentimes so high. So we really need to do something about that. But in the interim, it's kind of all we got are the um, available resources that we have for produce. And so if you can catch something organic on sale, always grab it. But if not, then just do what you can with the rest of the fruits and the vegetables, and try to supplement. And so um, let me save supplements for last. So here we are, um, on this journey to wellness with food. Um, it was the path that I took to heal my body. And I hope that this particular podcast will kind of quicken or awaken some of you all to the new notion that food really is the key to your well being. And so um, I'm going to talk about the benefits of an alkaline diet. That is something that I try to follow. I'm not real strict about it, but I try to lean into following an alkaline diet whenever possible. And so let me explain a little bit about what that is. So I've gone on this long talk about minerals and how important the minerals are, and that eating the healthy food is so that you can get the minerals. And so um, when you think in terms of alkalinity in the body, it is said that cancer, diabetes, all these other things can survive in a body that is alkaline. And so, what does that mean? Your blood tries to maintain a certain pH level, and anything above that particular pH level is considered alkaline, and anything below it is considered acidic. And so, let's just say the pH of your blood is 7. Let's just say that. I don't think it's exactly 7, but let's just say it's 7. So, if you go above that, um, you could have an issue. If you go below that, you can also have an issue. So your body works really hard to maintain your blood pH at, we're just going to say 7. And so that's on a scale of, well, let's just say like 1 to 12, with 12 being alkaline and 1 being acidic. The details of all of this aren't important. I'm just going to throw them out there. Some people need that, so here they are. So your body works to maintain that blood pH at 7. And it does that um, by using minerals to buffer the acid. So it's quite easy for us with our lifestyles. If you eat a lot of meat, if you stress a lot, you're kind of introducing a little bit of acidity into your body chemistry on a daily basis. That's easy. Stress, smoking, pop, sugar, all of those things all day long, we are introducing a little bit of acidity or acidic components into our physiology. And so what your body does to maintain that blood pH at 7 is it starts to use available minerals in the body to buffer that acid. So if it goes below 7, you're going to get sick. You could even die. If it goes above 7, you're going to get sick. You could even die. So that body is constantly working to maintain that homeostasis. And when it gets too acidic, it says, I'm going to take a little calcium out of the bones. I'm going to take a little magnesium out of the tissues. I'm going to take something out of the teeth, and I'm going to use that to buffer Tanya's acidity. She's stressing about doing this podcast and whether or not it's going to be picked up, blah, blah, blah. I'm just going to steal a little calcium, and I'm just going to buffer that so that we can keep her blood right at a healthy level of 7. That is the concept of acidity and alkalinity. In addition to that, there are foods that are alkaline versus acidic. So as I said, meat is acidic, dairy is acidic. Your fruits and vegetables are alkaline. So I'm sure you're kind of starting to piece together that the alkaline foods buffer the acidity. And so the alkaline foods are required for health. It's easy to get acid, and acid is the real killer. Like I said, we eat a lot of dairy, we eat a lot of French fries, eat a lot of meat, eat a lot of sugar. That's just a given in the United States and how we eat and how we live. Coffee, all that stuff is acidic. The difficult part is to get the alkaline foods. Those are the things that nobody wants to eat. Your leafy greens, your nuts, your fruits, your rutabagas, your Brussels sprouts, your beets, also oranges and apples, figs. All of those things are extremely alkaline, meaning that they are rich with available minerals, sodium, magnesium, potassium, calcium are your main buffers. And so as you eat those alkaline foods, when you eat a little coffee, when you have a little burger and fries, your body says, no problem, Tanya, I got you. Because you ate some figs or because you had a salad, some tomatoes, some cucumbers, I got all the minerals that I need. I'm just going to take some of that calcium, magnesium, sodium, potassium, and I'm going to buffer that acid from these French fries, and I'm going to keep your blood right at 7. It really is a miraculous process. But what happens when you're eating all the fries and the burgers and the chocolate and all of that, the sugar, and you don't have the alkaline foods as part of your diet, so you don't have the available mineral resources? What happens? In the beginning, very little. You may notice a little body odor. You may notice a little heartburn. You might get a little gassy. Your spouse may want to kick you out of the bed at night, those kinds of things. But if you continue to go on like that and the deficit gets bigger, you're going to start to look at things like diabetes, rheumatoid arthritis. I mean, it just keeps going on and on and on down that road. Could be a little lupus. Could be a little MS until you get to that big C word, which nobody wants to get to. So, we need those minerals, guys. They are important to our health and well-being. There's plenty of information out there on the acid alkaline balance. Alkaline, ALKALINE. If you just put that in on a Google search on an afternoon when you got time to spend and start reading, you're going to find everything that you need to know about that particular way of life. And it seems like a fancy buzzword. Oh, I follow an alkaline diet and all of that. But really all it means is this. You are eating healthy foods, and you are giving your body what it needs to maintain its physiological processes. That really is all it is. We tend to do everything gimmicky in the United States. If it's got a buzzword, everybody's on it. If it doesn't have a buzzword, people aren't going to fool with it. Bottom line, You're just eating the vegetables because your body depends on those minerals to perform its physiological processes, A, and B, it also relies on those nutrients and minerals to buffer acidity. Let me clarify. I should have said that statement like this: your body requires the vitamins and minerals to perform its metabolic processes, and it relies on the minerals to buffer acidity. I just wanted to clarify that. Um, we need them. No ifs, ands, and buts about it. And I wanted to come on and try to explain that. So, part A is you need your vitamin A's, you need your B's, you need your C's, you need your D, you need your K. You need all of that. You need K to prevent tartar on your teeth. A lot of people don't know that. A lot of people are plagued with tartar on their teeth simply because they need vitamin K. And so when you have tartar on your teeth, you also have clogging in your arteries because vitamin K actually takes those mineral deposits, your calcium, your magnesium, and puts it where it needs to go in the body. It's supposed to be in your bones, in your teeth, in your hair. It's not supposed to be in your tissues. So if you find that you're getting a lot of tartar on your teeth, it could be a sign that you're also getting buildup in your arteries, and that's something that you want to be concerned about. If you're getting a lot of tooth decay, calcium, magnesium, vitamin D, but also vitamin K, that's an overlooked nutrient. So if you are getting tartar, let that be a sign that you may want to think about getting a supplement or eating vitamin K foods, leafy greens. Vitamin K2 is found in certain cheeses, cottage cheese, a little bits in yogurt. All this information is out there, guys. I mean, just sit at the computer. If you open up your heart and mind and say, God, creator, universe, higher being, mindset, whatever you call that thing, show me what I need to be well, everything's going to be revealed to you because it is the plan of universal design for all of us to be functioning and thriving. And so if you come to the table with an open heart and an open mind, everything's going to be shown to you. So, in addition to all of that, another way to get minerals, and something that's completely overlooked, is water. So, again, no one ever explained to me the issue behind drinking all the water. I don't know what I thought when they said you need 64 ounces of water a day. Maybe I just thought it's just going to lubricate me better. I don't know. No one ever said to me that your body is after the minerals that are in that water. Those minerals buffer acid. You got a little heartburn? Try to drink you a little bit of mineralized water and see if in 10 minutes you get some relief. Oftentimes, heartburn is from dehydration, and I learned that from my experience. When I went through all of that, heartburn that I was about to get surgery for was because I was chronically dehydrated and I was missing all of these minerals. And I learned that lesson the hard way. And so I advise you guys not to do that because that was not pleasant at all. Find you some good mineralized water. We have this kick today now where everybody tries to monetize everything, and so they think that if water is good, pure water is better, but it's not. If you're drinking that water with no minerals in it, it's like it's doing more harm than good. It's going to flush out the few minerals that a lot of people have. Do not drink do not drink water without minerals or mineral less water. And you'll see them on the shelves. If you turn on the back and it doesn't have any kind of minerals in it, don't mess with it. If you turn it over on the back and it just has like minerals added, that's better than nothing, but you may not want to mess with that either. Get you some good mineralized water. I have a friend, her hair and skin are beautiful. She gets her water out of the faucet. She boils it first and she drinks it. Gives it to her and her son. Boiling water does not nullify the minerals. They will remain in there. I'm sure you've seen calcium deposits from the sink, or if you let water sit for a couple of days, it'll leave a little ring in a pot, or even if you boil water, you'll see a ring around the pot. Those are the minerals that are contained in that water, and those minerals are still very viable. So, if that's the only way that you can get your waters out of the faucet, do that. Do not drink a distilled water or, like I said, a mineral less water. There are pictures online. I personally use the brand EHM. It is a water picture that goes to a process of filtering the water, because I do like filtered water. I don't like drinking some of the pesticides and chemicals that we have in our water nowadays. But then it adds the minerals back in: sodium, potassium, zinc. All of that is kind of added back into the water through a natural process. But there are others out there. That's just the one that I use. Find you a good alkaline water pitcher. And if you can't do that, drink it out the faucet. If you Google ways to remineralize water, some people just add a pinch of Himalayan sea salt to their water. There's lots of information out there on how to get these minerals, and y'all got to get them, because all these commercials running, if you got this, if you got that, da 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 da, and then at the end of the commercial, for these pharmaceuticals, may cause this, may cause death, may cause what in the, please, no. We doing the most. It's too much. So drink water. Drink the required amount of water for your body, and you do that via trial and error. Some people need 64 ounces. Some people may only need 48. Some people may need 80 ounces. You got to kind of find that sweet spot for you. If the water has enough minerals in it, you may find that you don't require as much water. Next, we'll go to sleep. Sleep is vital for well-being. I know I said this podcast was going to be about diet and its effect on your physiology, but I'm going to go ahead and just throw in sleep. You got to get it, because there are certain things that happened at night. I didn't know any of this until I got sick. That your body after midnight goes through certain processes. Your liver goes through certain processes for cleaning your body. All kinds of things are happening. And so if you don't sleep, your body can't do that. So let's say your liver decides to do its cleaning at night while you're sleeping, but you never sleep. Guess what? Your liver's not cleaning like it should. You know, we're up all night playing a video game or on a tablet or watching a silly movie, and you rob your body of that vital time that it needs to do what it needs to do so that you can function at your best. If you stay up past midnight, your magnesium stores are depleted. All this stuff I didn't know. I think a lot of people are unaware of these kinds of things and showing up at the doctor's office and wondering why they're sick, and they went to the drive-through on the way to the doctor. I mean, that's how we live in the United States, right? Call a thing, people. We got to do better. Exercise. I'm going to throw that in the conversation as well. It doesn't have to be running all around the block for hours and all of that. Just move your body. Your body was designed to move. Like I said, you don't have to be a runner. Just cleaning your house from top to bottom on a Saturday. Your body was designed to move. Stop using the remote to turn the TV. Walk over to it and cut it off. Run downstairs and get the thing instead of waiting. I used to do this thing when I was young before I got sick. I had a little space at the bottom of my stairs where I would just pile up everything so that I only had to make one trip up at the end of the night. And now I don't do that. I try to look for ways to move my body. I'm not a real big exerciser. I do yoga because that's more relaxing. I find that I get sick. It affects my physiology. I'm tongue-tied today, negatively, if I exercise too much. My husband is a fiend with that working out and all that jumping and hopping and bumping. I don't do as much of that. I tend to be a person that likes more peaceful means of exercise, yoga, walking. My husband is a jogger. You have to find out what works for you. Um, I do like a little Tabata. If you guys aren't familiar with that, Google that. That's a way to build muscle, and I find that fun. But you got to find the thing that works for you, or you're not going to do it. If someone told me that that running was the only way for me to be fit, I would never do it. I would never do it. So you got to find that thing that works for you. And when you're exercising, you are speeding up your metabolism, you are engaging in detoxifying, you are also drawing in oxygen deep into your lungs, which actually alkalizes in addition to the minerals. And so, going back to what I said originally about when I was really sick, the only thing that would calm the symptoms down was a meditation tape. It was the relaxation from the guided meditation, but it was the fact that I was deep breathing. Deep breathing alkalizes your body. It performs the same function, maybe not as well or as efficiently, but it is definitely effective as adding minerals to your body or eating alkaline foods. Whenever you intake that air in, there is an exchange. It's really, really interesting that happens in your lungs, and that you breathe out acid. I think it has something to do with carbon dioxide. But oxygen, bringing it in, oxygenates your tissues, and that moves you towards an alkaline state. So between drinking water, eating the vegetables, deep breathing, a little bit of meditation, or you can just deep breathe. Sometimes meditation is not for everybody, but just deep breathing via aerobic exercise or just a conscious effort to practice controlled breathing. You give your body what it needs to buffer an acidic lifestyle. And that's what we're after. And so, the last thing I'll throw in here for everybody are supplements. And I do all these things. I do all of these things to maintain my health. I have to, because if I don't, I'm going to get into trouble. I still, because I got so sick, and I tell everybody when I see people barreling towards this cliff, I'm like, hey, you don't want to get all the way there, because when you get all the way there, your health is going to be harder to maintain. And we take it for granted. We take it for granted that we are in this physical body and that it will always be here, that it will always work for us. And that's just simply not the case. It does a miraculous job of maintaining your health as best as it can with the little bit that we give it. But eventually your luck could run out, and you don't want to be that person, kind of like what happened to me, kind of like what's happening to a lot of people. And I'm grateful to God that what did happen to me wasn't as bad as what is happening to other people. So if you're having things like muscle aches, stiffness, bad breath, cavities, heavy periods, those are all signs that your body is missing the nutrients that it needs to perform. And if you keep going on that path, you could find yourself in deep, 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 deep trouble. So supplements are a way to augment all of that. I don't believe in relying on supplements, because I've just come to understand that your body recognizes food more readily than it will a supplement. Supplements work, but there's something about food, because our bodies have been designed to eat. Is going to recognize a nutrient from an apple quicker than it will coming out of a capsule or a tablet. Speaking of which, always try to get your supplements in a capsule or in a powder form, because when your body has to break down a tablet, if your digestion is not efficient, it's just something else to make it harder for your body to get what it needs. powder forms are more readily absorbed. So eat the food, if not, take the supplement. They're out there. Calcium, magnesium, potassium. I personally take magnesium and potassium every single day. I drink almond milk that's fortified with vitamin D and calcium every single day. I take a multivitamin every single day. And the supplements kind of can fill in the gaps for where the food is lacking. Or sometimes when you do have a little bit more meat, or you do get a little more stressed, and the food kind of can't keep up with that, then the supplements offer an easy way to make sure that you maintain your mineral status. As people sometimes say, it's an insurance policy. Just in case you don't get everything that you need for the day, or you don't get the required amount of water, or you don't get the amount of sleep that you need, the supplements are there to kind of augment that. And you have to kind of figure out what is the best plan for you. If anybody needs help, you can contact me via this page. Just leave me a voice message and your contact information, and I'll reach out to you and see if I can help. In addition to the mineral supplements that I take, I also take some greens powders. They're out there, wheatgrass, there's all kinds of just moringa. A lot of people are into sea moss currently. I know a person that takes sea moss. I personally don't take sea moss, but there are things out there. You just gotta kind of research and Google and figure out what resonates with you. And I think that that is so key, is that when you're looking at these things, when you're listening to me, when you're listening to anybody, when you're reading an article on the internet, what's resonating with you? Is like when I went to that doctor and he said, I think you can do this by changing your lifestyle. Like, that hit deep within my being, and I'm like, that's it. You kind of know if you pay close attention, and if you're just quiet, when you're reading something about something, there will be an inner knowing, this is the path that I need to follow. So don't discount supplementing your diet with minerals, with powders. I take a protein powder, a vegan protein powder. There are nutrients out there, guys, that our diets just simply are lacking. And so if you're not committed to getting what your body needs for it to function well, you're just not going to be at your highest and best self. And that is the point of this podcast, is to get everybody moving towards their highest potential. And you're not going to be able to perform if your body is just broken down and just not where it needs to be. So thanks for hanging with me today. I really do think that health is more readily available to us than we think. We think that we have to rely on a doctor to maintain these bodies. We do not have to rely on a doctor. We are able to take charge of our diet. Oh, I'm so tongue-tied today. I apologize, y'all. I hope y'all can hear what I'm saying. Good grief. We can take charge of our health by watching what we put in our mouth and having the commitment and the diligence to make healthier choices when it comes to diet, when it comes to lifestyle, and drinking that water and doing that exercise and watching that stress. And if we can do that, we will be able to allow this physical body to serve our souls, which is really the only thing that it's supposed to be doing anyway. We think that the body is me, and it's not. The body is simply a carrier, a vehicle, a vessel for your soul to inhabit this particular plane that we're on, and to carry out the will of life. And so we owe it to ourselves to make sure that that vessel is in the best shape that it can be in, and not under the care and the control of some external outside force, like a physician, to maintain it. That is our responsibility. And when things go wrong, we are grateful that all those physicians are there. But we have more power to make sure that things go right. All right, guys, love you, and I will see you next week.